the wonderful world of Darklords. Report 49, the unknown regions. The final domain of the cluster, the unknown regions, can barely be considered a part of the stellar archipelago at all. It is essentially an entirely separate group of islands that happens to share the same ocean, so remote that few within the Imperium or the Midrim have even heard of it. This is reflected by the fact that it appears, at first glance, to be the only region of the cluster that is beyond Sidious's reach. Here, the optimistically named New Republic swears that it has defeated the Imperium entirely. My initial suspicions were that they had escaped to a stretch of ocean beyond Imperial control, bested the handful of patrols that had come their way, and declared unconditional military victory. But the bizarre temporal nature of the archipelago may mean that something stranger is afoot. Regardless of how it happened, the government here is free of the Imperium. For now. However, there are rumors of the Imperium's return. The First Order, a paramilitary organization whose members are nostalgic for the taste of boot polish, are attempting to revive it. Excuse me, Master. I confess that I am having some difficulty giving an account of the First Order for you, for I do not know whether a candid description of it, or of anything else for that matter, will trigger your wrath. I told you the details that led to my conclusions about Maul's past, lest you accuse me of baseless speculation, and you chose to interpret them as a personal attack. This may shock you, but not everything I write is a bid for your attention, and I cannot properly survey the domains and individuals that you selected for me if describing their characteristics will send you into a fit of pique. Do you desire an accurate report, or a collection of pretty lies that will not prick the withered husk of your conscience? There was a time when a truthful accounting would not have aggrieved you so. Then you had a friend. You chose, instead, to have a servant. This, of course, is your prerogative, Master. But, as I am your servant, let me do my God's damned job. At any rate, I was speaking of the First Order. Whether its members are at loose ends without a boot on their throats, or whether they dream of wearing the boot themselves, they long to return to the days of the Imperium. They are, in truth, less than a shadow of the Empire. But danger can lurk in shadows.
Welcome to wonderful
world of Darklords.
I'm Tom.
And I am Rachel.
And we're discussing how to convert Disney movies to Ravenloft Domains of Dread, and our current Darklord curse of the responses will inevitably attract with this episode.
Ooh, boy, we're going to have a whole disclaimer coming up. And
Yep.
Congratulations, guys. You made it through all of our singing intros.
Yes, indeed.
Back to normal in September.
Back to normal.
Along the way, we'll look at the Darklord, the domain itself, and some plot hooks and adaptation ideas to integrate this setting into your own campaign.
Today's episode, Kylo Ren.
Mm-hmm.
So, our grand sweeping 4-part series covering the entire Star Wars timeline of the movies finally reaches that current cinematic endpoint of the timeline, looking at our villain of the sequel trilogy, Kylo Ren, and the domain that we can connect him to. But first, speaking of the sequel trilogy, speaking of the Darklord curse we are currently under, speaking of disclaimers, okay, so just coming in right here with this disclaimer, we are both generally pro-sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
Like, I think we both like the sequel trilogy more than a lot of people do. I, in particular, I
love Last Jedi.
Yes.
And I like Force Awakens fine.
Yes.
And
yes,
Rise of Skywalker's a movie.
I am a Force Awakens defender. I'm a big Force Awakens defender. I think that Force Awakens is a smarter and more thoughtful movie than it gets a lot of credit for. So, like, that's kind of whenever there's, like, sort of the spicy Star Wars hot takes, mine's always, like, Force Awakens is much better than it gets credit for.
Yeah, I agree with that, definitely.
Rise of Skywalker, I am not, like, a defender, but I don't hate it as much as basically everyone I've ever talked to about it. Like, I don't want to like come out here and be like, actually, Rise of Skywalker's a lot smarter than like, no, it's not smarter than it gets credit for. But I just didn't bug me as much as it bugged a lot of people, and I found good in it that a lot of people don't seem to have found. So,
Luke Skywalker would approve.
Yeah, I'm kind of I consider myself a lukewarm defender of Rise of Skywalker. And I am happy if you want to interact via various social medias about either of those things. But 500-pound Rancor in the room, we both loved Last Jedi.
Yes. Like, no. Oh, gosh. It's really underrated. It's not bad. No. We loved Last Jedi. The only reason it's my third favorite Star Wars movie instead of my second favorite Star Wars movie is because so much of what it set up wasn't paid off in Rise of Skywalker.
Bomb.
At me. Don't at me. Don't at me.
No, honey, no. It's the whole thing we're doing here.
It's the whole thing we're doing here.
The whole thing we're doing here is don't at us, okay? Like, don't at us
me with your love.
Yes.
At me with love and adoration of Last Jedi.
Don't at us about The Last Jedi.
No.
All right?
No.
Like we're not even going to, like, disagree with you or engage. Mm-hmm. If you're, like, post something social media about how you hate Last Jedi, we are just deleting the comment.
Yeah.
Like, we are happy to discuss, debate, expand on the sequel trilogy in general. If you want to hear my thoughts on why I think Force Awakens is really underrated, happy to go into that in various forum-y-type places. But, like, there's so much ridiculous toxicity around Last Jedi discourse and bad faith. We are just not talking about that movie, period.
Yeah.
Like, we're coming in saying, we like this movie and it's super good.
Mm-hmm. If you are blinded with your rage and hatred by this statement, then, maybe wait till September.
Yeah.
Like, we're not going to force you to enjoy Last Jedi. Like, if you don't, I know there are people who dislike it in good faith. I've heard good faith arguments for not liking it, and I disagree, but I understand them. Don't even make those arguments, though, because there are so many bad faith ones that I don't want to hear it.
Now, as we said, we are aware not only our Last Jedi love, which we don't want to hear comments on,
no,
but our general, especially me, approach to the sequel trilogy is not necessarily the norm. Mm-hmm. And if you're one of those people listening, skeptical, being like, I do not share that attitude toward the sequel trilogy, we do have one sort of proposal, one proposition to hopefully keep you listening through this that I hope you will agree on, even if you have a deep disdain for the sequel trilogy, which is that Kylo Ren is an amazing darklord.
Yes, he is. And if even that's not enough to win you over, you know what? You're getting a ton of Palpatine lore in this episode.
Yes.
So suck it up.
No, I promise. There's some really cool stuff at the end. Power through. Think you'll like it. But hoping that statement is self-evidently true enough. Kylo Ren is an amazing darklord. That it's worth listening to the episode as we expand on that darklord Kylo Ren. But before we jump into that Dark Lord Kylo Ren, and before we jump into that overall story we've been seeding about Palpatine, some interesting stuff with him, we've been hinting at kind of an overall thing with Palpatine.
And this is the episode where you get it, my friends.
There is one more thing we want to lay the groundwork for, and that is the general idea of what we're doing with our Star Wars domains. You have heard this before if you listen to the others, but if in a very odd situation, this is the first one you're listening to, you are jumping in with our sequel trilogy episode.
Hey, you know what? If you like the sequel trilogy,
you're nodding along as we talk about it.
You have come to the right place, friends, because there is very little Star Wars that we do not like. So you know what? I loved all of them. Everyone. They're Star Wars. And I love them like Star Wars.
So we are imagining, in order to convert the sort of Star Wars galaxy and Ravenloft domains, for starters, they're not just like four separate, totally like isolated domains. They're part of this wider kind of cluster that we're calling the Stellar Archipelago. That's how we are doing the planet spaceship thing in a more standard D&D like type setting. It's not planets, it's islands. You don't do spaceships, you do regular ships.
Yes.
Speaking of standard D&D, the specific standard D&D we are riffing on is the basic tech level of something like EMPEROR. It's like steampunk, magitech. You need to have those mechanics, those dials, those levers, that kind of gearhead element of Star Wars. So we're leaving up to individual DMs, but it's either airships traveling from island to island, from the island Tatooine to the island Alderaan or whatever, or it is like Nautilus or steamships, or like Nautilus submarine type things, traveling from island to island. We mentioned we are doing some interesting lore stuff with Palpatine. We're kind of seeding an idea for something to do with Palpatine throughout these episodes. In none of our previous episodes, or in this episode, in our canon setting, is Palpatine a Dark Lord.
Yes.
Palpatine does not have a torment. He is living his best evil, lightning, shooting, cackling life.
Being Maul's abusive lightning dad.
Yeah. Good. Like,
unlimited power.
just, that's a man living his best evil life. So we're taking a lot of inspiration from the Gentleman Caller, or the Caller from the sort of canon Ravenloft, and we're imagining a sort of this just wandering mastermind of corruption and temptation.
He didn't make the jump into 2024. I'm very disappointed.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's a Gentleman Caller.
And we are...
I have issues with Horrors Within, and that is one of them.
And so we're specifically... part of our theme and part of our design sort of doc was that all of our 4 Star Wars Dark Lords are people corrupted by Palpatine. He's sort of our archdevil, who is the great corrupter of this setting and who brings these Dark Lords into corruption. And speaking of being an archdevil, just for simplicity's sake, we are imagining that the Sith and the Imperial Inquisitors are both warlocks of Palpatine.
Yeah.
Speaking of, for the simplicity's sake, we are also having the Jedi just be like an order with a shared philosophy and shared beliefs and a shared kind of hierarchy. We're not having a specific like class or power system or magic system for that. This is free. And if you want me to pay me to do a Jedi magic system, I'll come up with something.
There have been some cool stat blocks on our Discord if you want to come check that out.
Yep.
But
And, some potential, like things like the Psy Warrior Fighter for 2024. Absolutely. There are some subclasses that would fit Jedi very well. But look, we're not digging into that. We're not being like every single Jedi is a Psy Warrior Fighter. We are just like, it is this order with these shared beliefs and this shared hierarchy. And some of them have the stats of a cleric, and some of them have the stats of a paladin, stats of a monk, stats of a druid, whatever. But that's just like their different training and abilities.
Yeah.
Like they don't think of themselves as like, on their tax form, they just say Jedi. They don't write cleric or druid or paladin. It's just Jedi. And finally, we've mentioned these 4 domains, starting with Count Dooku with our Clone Wars domain. Now here we have Kylo Ren, our sequel trilogy domain. And we are imagining that the different regions of the archipelago, they had this shared history, but as different Dark Lords fell, they kind of cut off different regions. So we have these kind of different political setups. So like in our Clone Wars domain, Count Dooku is still alive, the Clone Wars is still raging. Palpatine's still referred to as the Chancellor. In the core, in the Darth Vader domain, the wars ended and the Empire took over.
yeah. And depending on how much you want to do, like, they're not just separated by space, but also by time. Like, it could be that just, in Count Dooku's domain, they haven't gotten the memo that the war is over because they've been so cut off by the mists that they don't know, and, like, Palpatine is only communicating remotely. Or it could be that, like, they're actually kind of, like, free-floating in time as well as in space. And we're going to talk about that some more in this episode.
Yes, we will. That's part of that whole Palpatine thing we've been hinting at.
If you haven't listened to the previous episodes, there was a bit in the D-fiction in the previous episodes where she went to Geonosis in both the Clone Wars and the Empire. It was like WTF. So we're going to work
We'll
with that.
hopefully be enlightening you on that later on this episode. But this is just for simplicity's sake. Once again, you're like, I just want to have this Star Wars setting, or I can do Clone Wars, and I can do original trilogy, and I can do sequel trilogy.
Yes.
Here you go. Kind of somehow at the same time. That's our best solution to that dilemma.
Because mists, guys. Mists.
Wibbly wobbly timey wimey Ravenloft. Speaking of, this particular region of the archipelago where we are having our sequel trilogy setting, it's the Unknown Regions, is our non-DM's Guild write-up subject to copyright filter domain. That'll be the Uncharted regions.
Yes.
And as the name suggests, this is the region that is the edge of the map. This is the one there's the least mapping of, the least knowledge of. It's the most mysterious. It's the least explored and least settled. This is the, this is what's even beyond the wild frontier. Like Outer Rim's the wild frontier. This is what's beyond that.
Yeah.
This is into the unknown. To quote another Disney property. It's the hardest to travel to the others. That's why we could have this kind of dramatic, there's a full-on New Republic here. And It's full of ancient civilizations. It's full of hidden secrets. It's full of vaults. If you wanted to go hide some powerful magical artifact in a temple full of traps, this would be the place you would put that temple full of traps. This is the Indiana Jones treasure hunt magic item domain. And politically, this is a place where they're so isolated from the main Imperial Rebel struggle, the Rebels actually were able to win and establish the New Republic. And that New Republic still exists, hasn't been blown up yet, because we're going to go into this a whole bunch more in the land section, but we're setting this actually pre-Force Awakens.
Yes.
In that kind of first half hour of Force Awakens and the years before that, where you have the Resistance, you have the First Order, but then you have this separate New Republic political structure. And we're talking, that's a weird choice, because to do the first half hour of the first movie of the trilogy.
And I know that, like, the Disney World stuff is set between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. That's not what we're doing.
That, like,
although we have a little bit of that in there, but it's mostly pre-Force Awakens.
But I think that kind of the most interesting and most unique political setup is actually what we get before the trilogy starts. But in order to sort of get you there, to that pitch that is a really interesting political setup, that's maybe not so obvious, because once again, it's the first half hour of the first movie.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned, what hopefully should be obvious is Kylo Ren's a great darklord, and it's worth doing all these mental gymnastics, jumping through all these hoops to be able to do Kylo Ren as a darklord. And let's talk about why he's a great darklord in a section we like to call
The Lord. The Lord. The bombastically titled Supreme Leader of the First Order, Kylo Ren, styles himself as the son of Darth Vader. When telling me this, Aphra rolled her eyes with such gusto that she must have seen the inside of her skull. The distance from the hub of the Imperium to the unknown regions, she informed me, was nothing compared to the distance that the apple had fallen from the tree. Kylo Ren, the story goes, began life as a foundling on a backwater island, but his innate magical abilities were so powerful that he attracted the attention of a Jedi who had fled to the unknown regions to escape the Imperium. This Jedi had created a school to train magically gifted children in the hopes of reviving the dying order, and Kylo Ren outshone them all. Such brilliance, Ren believed, could not bloom in isolation. His unknown parents must have hailed from an exceptional arcane lineage. This was irrefutably confirmed by a vision informing him that he was the son of Darth Vader. After all, one can always trust in visions that appear to a single recipient and tell him precisely what he most longs to hear. Although this vision could be ascribed to wishful thinking, madness, or a nakedly self-aggrandizing lie, my personal experiences in the unknown regions make me suspect that he did, in fact, receive a vision from an outside source. But that source is far from trustworthy. Kylo Ren attempted to follow in his progenitor's footsteps by slaughtering any Jedi who crossed his path, including the massacre of his fellow students, and by giving himself the aforementioned dramatic title of Supreme Leader. He dresses in a ridiculous approximation of Vader's armor and has forged his own red Sith blade. However, reports on his behavior suggest that he is an heir to Vader in the same way that a doltish prince might be the heir to a great king. Upon hearing these less than inspiring tales, I was somewhat dismayed to discover that Kylo Ren was, in fact, the buyer who had hired Aphra to bring the cauldron from Dathomir. I learned this when Aphra pulled aside the few of us who knew of her history with Vader and told us that we were not, under any circumstances, to tell Ren about it. She believed that if she were lucky, she would simply be forced to regale the star-struck Supreme Leader with tales of his father's greatness. If she were not, he would attempt to prove to her that he was a worthy heir to Vader's legacy. Having endured the real Vader, she had no interest in suffering through the hollow but dangerous caricature of one who hoped to imitate his cruelty.
So, if you are in any nerd space in the last, decade and change,
I'm old.
You know who Kylo Ren is. If you've been to Disneyland and ridden Ride of the Resistance, you maybe have seen an animatronic Kylo Ren, maybe not. Depends on the day.
Depends if it was working.
However, if you are one of those people that we said, maybe you're just really desperate to hear people talk seriously about the sequel trilogy in a non-neggy way, and in which case you just clicked on this, you're listening, welcome. I hope it's been able to follow us so far. But you might not know, you keep hearing us say, Kylo Ren's a great Dark Lord. You know who Kylo Ren is. You might not know what a Dark Lord is. Rachel, what is a Dark Lord?
Well, a Dark Lord is an evil being who commits some kind of act of ultimate darkness that causes the dark powers to say, why, hello, new friend, we want to play with you forever. And so they pluck that evil being up and they place them in a domain, which is a special hell tailor-made just for them. There are some really great Dark Lords. There are some really not so great Dark Lords. So we are going to talk about the 4 qualities that separate the Strahd von Zaroviches from the Cthulhus, who might be replacing Uruk von Karkov as our go-to bad Dark Lord, because, you know, I feel kind of bad about how much we've been bullying Uruk von Karkov.
I don't feel bad about bullying Cthulhu.
No, Cthulhu can take it.
I'm not, like, concerned for Cthulhu's feelings. I'm not like, am I punching down? No, I'm not punching down. It's Cthulhu.
I have a whole rant about being grumpy about Cthulhu, but that's for another
social media.
episode. Yeah,
want to hear it.
So, the first of those 4 qualities is that act of ultimate darkness. They didn't just kind of like do some evil things every now and then and become a Dark Lord, or, you know, be born an evil god and can't help that's what they are. They did a specific evil act that they chose to do, knowing it was evil, and that drew the Dark Power's attention. And in Strahd's case, it was that he killed his brother because he wanted to get with his brother's fiancée. Our second element is what they call in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, the Torment. Because we're a Disney podcast, we call it they got what they wanted, they lost what they had. And in Strahd's case, it's congratulations, your brother's out of the way. You're a vampire now, so you have eternal youth, so you're not too old for Tatiana, but you're too Strahd for Tatiana, and you always will be. Our third element is an element of tragedy and relatability. They're not just evil for the sake of being evil, unlike Cthulhu. There's something about them that makes us wince in sympathy, and in Strahd's case, it's that unrequited love is just the worst. And our fourth element is that the domain reflects the Dark Lord and their curse in some way. Strahd is the Dark Lord of spooky gothic vampire land. He is not the Dark Lord of the First Order. And Barovia is a boring mud slump to reflect that curse of loneliness. He's never going to find a replacement for Tatiana, even if he wanted to, because everyone in Barovia is a boring peasant who couldn't possibly draw his attention the way that she did.
So, Kylo Ren, some of these very clear.
Oh, yeah.
Others are harder, because it is kind of an undefined bit of backstory. Because the backstory we mentioned is so important in the Dark Lord, and yet there's a lot of Kylo Ren's backstory that, and like maybe it's in a comic or something, like, but not in the movies.
Yeah.
It's left very undefined.
I mean, you've like even read some of the novels and stuff, which is why you know that the pre-Force Awakens setting is interesting, and still haven't gotten a whole lot about Kylo Ren's backstory.
So, we also have, once again, if you're joining us for the first time, there's kind of a big issue, which is we made a bold creative choice that we now have to deal with. As many people in a situation like this, as many DMs know, you make that bold creative choice, now you're stuck with it. And we had it be that in our Darth Vader episode, which statistically you've probably listened to, but just in case you haven't, we had it be that he actually killed Padme and the unborn children.
Yes.
And then he actually died of his wounds and was an undead. He was raised by Palpatine as an undead.
Yeah.
To make, once again, emotional sense.
Yeah, yeah. And we wanted to kill off Luke and Leia. Well, you know, if we didn't want to kill... that sounds wrong.
Yes.
But we felt that we had to kill off Luke and Leia so that the PCs could be the PCs.
Yeah, we wanted to remove that protagonist to leave a protagonist-shaped hole for PCs to potentially fill.
We wanted to kill them in the same way that we wanted to kill Belle in our Beauty and the Beast episode, which was not at all, but we did what we had to do, like so many Dark Lords.
Right, we know what we have to do, but we don't know if we have the strength to do it.
Love you. We're being torn apart.
So, that is difficult to adapt Kylo Ren. So we're taking some elements from Rey and from The Last Jedi to build a kind of thematic parallel and to give him an emotional arc that leads into that act of ultimate darkness that leads into that torment. So, he is born nobody. His parents are junk dealers who sell him for drinking money. But unbeknownst to them, or Unkar Plutt or whoever buys him, he is very powerful in the Force. And when he starts to manifest this, he attracts the attention of a Jedi who has escaped into the unknown regions and is planning to try and, here I'm the farthest away from the Empire possible, I'm going to try and rebuild the Order.
This Jedi, like, they could be like a canonical Jedi if you want. It could be Obi-Wan Kenobi, it could be Ahsoka, it could be Kanan, or it could just be some random Jedi NPC.
Way to bring in Cal Kestis, But, so this Jedi has decided to, unlike Cal Kestis, has decided to rebuild the Order and recruits him, very young, and is raising him and is teaching him and is the closest thing to a parent he ever has. Like, that's you see where we're going with this. Like, that Jedi is the closest thing to a parent he has. And so there's these other students, builds a temple, is training them, but Kylo learns much faster than the other students.
We're getting this, of all things,
Yes.
from Lego Star Wars Tales of Terror.
Tales of Terror, The Lost Boy.
Yes, it's the Halloween special,
It's really
and
good.
Kiefer Sutherland is the head of the Knights of Ren.
He's doing The Lost
Doing The
Boys.
Lost Boys. It's amazing.
When he has a mullet and everything.
It's so good.
Ren has a mullet and
It's
it's
so
Kiefer
good.
Sutherland, and they're bikers. It's so great. So he is frustrated by how much more powerful he is and how much faster he learns than the other students, how much talent he has. And then this voice in his head, this kind of presence in his dreams, starts to take advantage of this. He desperately wants, I say, I'm so powerful, I'm so talented, I must be important. I must be a main character of the universe. So the voice tells him he's actually the son of Darth Vader.
Yeah.
And that he has this destiny. It is his destiny to be the new Vader. Like, to take up that mantle, to take up that mask, to finish what his father started, and to be the new Vader. And more than anything else, more than any kind of, like, commitment to fascism or evil or whatever, it's that desperate desire for, like, a place and a destiny and a role in the story.
And to be the specialist boy.
Be the specialist boy, to be a chosen one. So he turns against his teacher.
He can't just randomly have this much power.
No, he has to be a chosen one.
Yeah.
And he kills most of the other students as part of this pledging himself to the dark side. He makes this warlock pact with Sidious, who's the voice in his head, and destroys the temple and goes off and meets up with the First Order. And it's up to the DM if he kills his Jedi teacher or not.
Yeah.
Maybe you want that for an act of ultimate darkness, or maybe you even want the Jedi teacher to then, like, be part of your PC story and then be killed by Ren in front of him. Like, kind of be a Han Solo.
Yeah, do a Han or a Luke. Yeah.
But either way, this is this great betrayal. He killed a number of the students in sort of the battle, burned the temple. That's our act of ultimate darkness.
Oh man, I just realized though, if you do have him kill the Jedi teacher and you want to do the Luke, you could totally have him be a ghost.
You could have him be a ghost, yeah.
He's not corporeal. None of the attacks hit him.
Pivoting into the torment, like, it could be like the torment of he'll never be able to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's got his.
He'll always be with you, just like your father.
The voice of his conscience, like the voice of his conscience, is there, and it's a Force ghost. It's a glowing blue hologram. It's actually pretty awesome.
Aslan's like, same, bro. Same.
Right. I heard that. I feel that. I feel that.
Aslan is haunted by the ghost of his son, if you didn't know, who was a good person.
Yes. Speaking of the torment, so he's like rampages, he's being all tough and bad, and he's able to hook up with the First Order, who are this Imperial remnant group who is slowly kind of gathering power in the fringes of the unknown regions. And there's, for reasons we'll get into later, they like make him their supreme leader, so we're kind of bypassing Snoke, as you know. Even as sequel trilogy defenders, who gives a crap?
Who gives a fly? The only
gives a poop
purpose
about
Snoke
Snoke,
serves is for that throne room scene in Last Jedi. Like, other than that, who gives a flying for Zuli?
So he is the new Vader. He has his Empire. He has his Star Destroyers. He has his Stormtroopers. He has his TIE Fighters. He has everything, like, on the surface, everything you wanted. He's the heir to Vader, but no, he's not. And
No,
on some
he's
level,
not.
he knows he's not. He doesn't. He still, like, believes in his head, if not in his heart, that he is the son of Darth Vader, the heir of Darth Vader. But he knows in his heart he's not really the heir of Darth Vader.
That, like, even if Sidious were telling him the truth about him being the son of Darth Vader, which he's not,
he's
like,
not.
Important point. This is total BS.
Lie, yes.
Like, but he's not, like, spiritually the heir
Yes.
to Darth Vader.
He is not this just figure of power and darkness.
And unrepentant evil.
Unrepentant evil.
Like, that's the thing, is he is haunted by his conscience in a way that
Yes.
Vader is absolutely not.
Yes, he's haunted by his conscience, possibly literally haunted by this dead Jedi space bomb. And he knows on some level, he feels that call to the light, he feels that conscience, he feels that guilt. And on some level, he knows he's like all bluster. He knows he is a child in a costume.
Yes.
That he is a
take that
little
ridiculous
boy
thing off.
wearing a mask, in a Halloween mask, stomping around saying, I'm Darth Vader.
Oh my god. gosh, so great. So great.
That's what I think. That's why we have to do this as a Dark Lord. He has such a perfect torment.
Yes.
And it's one of, I think, the very, very good decisions the sequel trilogy made was that you're never going to top Darth Vader or even get close to Darth Vader for just like this icon of darkness and power and strength and ruthlessness and the Empire made manifest. So don't even try.
Don't even try.
You just have this kid who sucks
and wants so bad to be Darth Vader,
who throws a temper tantrum when like things don't go his way.
The scene in Force Awakens,
so good.
He's throwing a tantrum, and the stormtroopers are coming around the corner, and they just stop and like kind of gesture to each other, and then walk the other way.
The other one like puts his hand up like stop, and they turn around.
This is just a thing he does.
Yes, that like
because he sucks.
Where the scuttlebutt goes around that you just need to like watch out when he's in a mood. When he's in a bad mood, when he hasn't had a nap, he just gets angry and just like stay out of his way. Like he just sucks. He sucks so much, and on some
Kylo,
level,
have a juice box and some string cheese.
And calm down. Like on some,
put on Octonauts.
Yes. On some level, he knows he sucks. And he knows he's nothing. He's haunted by this terror that he'll never be as strong as Darth Vader. He'll never be this person he's pretending to be and that he thinks people believe that he is. It's brilliant torment. And, you know, once again, element of tragedy and relatability is written here. Who among us doesn't suck?
Yeah, I know I suck.
Who among us doesn't want to be special and doesn't want to be the main character of the universe and doesn't want to be, like, the protagonist of reality?
I mean, I assume there's a proportionately high number of fanfic writers in our listener base. Guys, come on. I know my self-insert characters weren't just random people. Your self-insert characters probably also weren't just random people. They were somebody's special baby who was more special than their parents. And that he wants to live his own self-insert fanfic.
It's like, if you're writing an Avatar The Last Airbender fanfic, your self-insert OC is not going to be the cabbage merchant.
No.
It's going to be like the airbender who is also an airbender somehow and is also somehow the Avatar.
Yeah, totally.
And possibly a love interest for whoever your favorite character is.
Of course.
So that, like, the relatability of that desire to be the most important, the most special, while also kind of knowing you suck and having that inadequacy, you know, hopefully, if you're listening to this, you're old enough to not have thrown any temper tantrums recently, but I'm sure there are times you wanted to, because that's the human condition.
In your heart, you threw a tantrum. I want to throw a tantrum right now because Binks is being so loud. He was being fine till now, but now he's
stepping on paper.
He's stomping around like Kylo Ren.
Bum, 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 bum. And even just like I'm describing Kylo Ren, I hope you're like, this guy sucks so much. But there's that little stab of pity because he's so pitiable. He's such a, like, sad, small, pathetic man.
Pathetic is the word.
He's so pathetic, and he's so unhappy.
He's so unhappy.
And he's so in a hell of his own creation.
Yes.
That hopefully that is some element of tragedy there.
It's like one of the tragic things with Kylo Ren is that he doesn't actually want to be the heir to Vader. Like, and I feel like with this version, it's even more of a thing because, like, with the version in the movie, like, he could have, like, declared himself the heir to Luke Skywalker, the heir to Han Solo, the heir to Princess Leia, and been like, I'm going to be the great hero of the galaxy. And he chose not to do that. And that's all on him. But, like, this version of Kylo Ren, like, kind of the only option he had for being a special boy was being Darth Vader's son. So, like, if he's going to have that kind of, like, appealing to his pride and his ego, like, if that's the thing, then that is his option. And that's not really what he wants. Because, again, he does have a conscience and he feels the pull to the light and he doesn't really want to be Darth Vader. But if he's not Darth Vader, then who is he? And that's just... There's a level here in which he's kind of like the kid whose dad really wants him to take over the company. Yeah. But the company is the Empire. Yes. And so he wants to make dad happy, but really he just wants to go and play the guitar.
And then finally the domain reflecting the Dark Lord's personality or curse. Like, This is why it's great, because like if Darth Vader is sort of the Empire incarnate,
Yes,
the just brutal, power-worshipping war machine made flesh, so to speak, made black shiny metal flesh, then he is kind of the First Order incarnate in that it's Imperial cosplay.
Yes.
These are like these much dumber, more dogmatic. I'm in love with Hux. You immediately got the whole, like, we've never had this full, like, super dogmatic, like, true believer Imperial officer character before. And they have so much, power. They're so just dumb kids. Marching around in little costumes. And that's it. It is an extension of him. But the genius is the idea that, like, yes, even this dumb kid marching around in a costume can be dangerous.
Yes.
And indeed, the patheticness kind of makes him more dangerous.
Yes.
Like, he is more dangerous because he's so pitiable and pathetic.
It's like our non-American listeners, I envy you for not having this experience, but, like, so many headlines in America are made by small, stupid, pathetic, laughable men with guns.
Yes.
And that's Kylo Ren in the First Order.
Ren, yes. And the First Order is that. And even if we mention, we have the status quo pre sort of the first half hour of Force Awakens. We have the New Republic, who's the main government power in this region, and that's how they see the First Order. It's just these are like dumb kids cosplaying the Empire.
Yeah.
Just like they would see Kylo Ren as a dumb kid cosplaying Darth Vader. And they're correct. But that causes them to ignore the danger they pose.
So once again, to get back to that metaphor, this is, we need to talk about Kevin.
Yeah, we need to talk about Kylo.
Yeah, we need to talk about
Jenny
Kylo.
made that joke. I'm not,
Nice. He's just a dumb, annoying emo kid until he isn't.
Yes. Then, speaking of his actual danger, let's talk about some of the powers and abilities he has, having him as a villain in NPC or Dungeons & Dragons game. So we mentioned, we've now got a chance to take a quick look at Ravenloft: The Horrors Within. They give you a full stat block for the Domain Lord. We're not doing that because we have to do one of these a month and they're free.
We do, yes.
And that would take a while. And so we are still taking that Van Ritten's Guide to Ravenloft. We're giving you stat blocks similar to A. And in this case, we're going with Cultist Hero Font. If that sounds familiar, thank you for listening to our series. Because that's also what we used for Count Dooku.
Yes.
Because it is a spell caster, the good selection of spells, but they're going for a warlock thing, so they have Pact Blade. So you get the nice, like, the lightsaber, they're a melee combatant, and they have a good range of spells, and it's a fighter with a good, Sith flavor.
Yes.
And also, once again, we just like the symmetry. We have our first and our last, our person who summoned Sidious, the Archdevil, into this world, Count Dooku, and our ending, connected in special ways with our Archdevil Palpatine, Sidious, Kylo Ren. And in the middle, we have our two undead Darklords,
Yes,
Vader
it's
and
like our sandwich, and our bread is Cultist Hero Fonts, and our fillings are undead.
It's like poetry.
It rhymes.
It rhymes. And in terms of specific powers, in terms of spells, he has these sort of warlock levels. You could give him some other spells. You definitely want to give him Hold Person.
Oh, for sure.
You want to give him Detect Thoughts. He uses those. Other than that, he is the supreme leader of the First Order. He does have this giant, way bigger than the New Republic thinks, fanatically loyal paramilitary, neo-imperial army. He has Star Destroyers. He has soldiers. He has TIE fighters. He has this network of influence and information in the Republic itself, because you do have these Imperial sympathizers, which we'll talk more about in the land section. But there are these Imperial sympathizers at a lot of different levels of government and society that he has access to them. And then finally, of course, the power all Dark Lords have, the closing the border, because you're like, look, if I'm going to be killed, can I at least be killed by Darth Vader? Can I at least be killed by, like, someone cool?
Oh, man, it would be the boy. I'm sorry, Han. You got killed by Kylo Ren. I'm sorry. Admiral Akbar, I'm sorry.
And that, so in order to avoid, say, you know what, forget this, let's just go back to the Empire. We need to die with some dignity. Then you can close the border. We're taking from Exegol in Episode 3, because that's kind of like equivalent of a closed border. These crazy storms of, like, red lightning, of, like, gray clouds and red lightning surround this part of the archipelago. And the only way through is with these special, like, artifacts, these special wayfinders.
Moana?
Moana! So that could even, once again, be like a nice quest, potentially. If you're like, the only way to get out of here is to do this big Indiana Jones-esque temple excavation and find one of these wayfinders.
Yeah.
So that is him represented as a D&D character. Now let's shift back into a little bit talking about him as a D&D character that you are role-playing, about some of that inner psychology. Once again, sticking with...
Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, I strongly disagree with the decision to remove Trait, Ideal, Bond, and Flaw. Like, they had these are the greetings, which is something, but a lot of them also are kind of samey.
Yeah,
like,
they're like, I'm evil.
like, look at Octopot and Azalin and Godfrey and throw them in a blender and pull them out, and I challenge you to tell me which one is which, because they're all arrogant undead guys telling you, hey, why are you talking to me like we're equals? It's...
Like, in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, I think stat similar to an X is pretty brilliant. I think that's good. But, like, a lot of people disagreed with me. Like, I acknowledge, much like with the sequel trilogy, I acknowledge I'm in the minority here. I acknowledge many people found that a glaring weakness of the book. It did not have darklord stat blocks. Okay.
Right.
I'm the weirdo. But, like, the 2014 system of doing NPCs with role-playing trait, Ideal, Bond, and Flaw, objectively better.
Objectively better. Like,
I have never run into a single person online who was like, I sure am glad they got rid of that.
Yeah. So alignment's great, but like when I write the D fiction, it's helpful to know that she's chaotic good. Absolutely. But every now and then I'll get to a moment where I'm like, it would be a really bad idea for her to poke the bear here. Is she going to poke the bear here? And I go back and I look at her trait, Ideal, Bond, and Flaw, and her trait is poke the bear.
Poke the bear.
And her flaw is poke the bear. If you want to see what those exact trait and flaw are, then go listen to our Diaz for Disney episode.
Yeah.
And then I go, okay.
Well, there you go. That's what we're doing.
Poking the bear. And that is so much more helpful than just knowing she's chaotic good.
So, role-playing trait, Ideal, Bond, and Flaw, we are sticking with that. Here to eternity. We are going to keep doing, as long as we're in this podcast, we're going to keep doing that.
Yep. If you were worried that 2024 was going to change this, no, it's not.
We looked through the quotes, and we tried to find 4 to be that role-playing trait, Ideal, Bond, and Flaw. And for role-playing trait...
This was the hardest.
This was the hardest, yeah. Because, like, once again, does he come in, like, kind of Force Awakens, like, hyper-arrogant, you will give me the map, you will obey me, I am all big and powerful and scary and everything. And there's a very good argument to make for that. And honestly, that probably will be the initial tack he uses with your PCs. But, like, you don't need us for that.
No.
You don't need us to tell you Kylo Ren's going to be stomping around in his big boy pants and trying to make them all scared, trying to intimidate them. But what's more interesting is the kind of Last Jedi, if he actually tries to make like a connection with the PCs. And one of the brilliant things I think with that is it's not just like a lie or a manipulation or a seduction. It is a genuine like coming from this deep loneliness he has.
He's a very lonely man.
And that genuine desire for connection.
Yeah,
like,
he really wants Rey to join him and be his empress.
Genuinely wants Rey to be his empress. To like, he wants them side by side, ruling the galaxy.
Yeah.
To have this like other half and this companion and this person who understands him and accepts him. And that could be a really interesting thing to like, if he's able to build a similar kind of approach with one of your PCs.
Yeah, it's like when Sidious is doing this, he's full of blue mud. But like with Maul and Kylo Ren both, it's like, no, they actually want this connection with their apprentice.
So for a role-playing trait, we have, you come from that Jedi, you come from nothing, you're nothing, but not to me. Join me, please.
Just grade A negging.
Ah, so good. You're
Grade
nothing, but
A
not
negging.
to me. But then the genuine please. Please.
And even the like, he means it. This isn't just a negging line. He's like, no, this is why you should join me, because you are nothing but not to me. So see, I'm gonna be great for you.
Ideal. It has to be something with that sort of relationship to the dark side and to Vader and to his idea of his destiny and his purpose. And once again, if this were Horrors Within, this would be like the greeting line, I think. This would be...
Yeah, of course, it's stupid that they do it as the greeting line, but if it's just the one quote to sum up the character, it would be this one.
Forgive me, I says Force Awakens, I feel it again, the pull to the light. The Supreme Leader senses it. Show me again the power of the darkness, and I'll let nothing stand in our way. Show me, Grandfather, and I will finish what you started.
Ah, so good. So good.
So it's like, he's like, I feel this pull to the light. I see that as weakness. And I'm desperately trying to be the heir to Vader.
Yeah.
I'm desperately trying to be the new Darth Vader and to be that kind of cold, brutal strength incarnate that I see him as.
And I'm not, and I never will be, but I'm in denial about that fact.
And then similarly with the Bond, it has to be, once again, to that relationship with the dark side, to that sort of image of himself that he's so desperate to be real. So I've given everything I have to you, to the dark side. When the moment came, I didn't hesitate.
And just that idea of that his bond is to the dark side and to Sidious/Snoke. And then we cut it because of the specifics not fitting.
Yeah.
But the moment in question is killing Han Solo.
Right.
So the idea that, when the moment to cut his ties to his old life came, he didn't hesitate, but he did.
Yeah.
That's the great thing he did.
And I love, Snoke gave us, and it split you to the bone. That didn't clarify anything. That didn't help. That made it worse.
Yes.
When you did this. It's so good.
So good.
Such
so
a good
good
character story. And then finally for our flaw, the actual flaw would be asterisk, throws temper tantrum, close asterisk. It's like not even just the anger, not even the rage, but the kind of fundamental juvenileness of that anger and rage.
Being angry is just being a good Sith. But...
So we needed to find a quote that kind of was the verbal equivalent of temper tantrum. So we have here, once again, very appropriately, when he's confronting Luke on Crate, because he basically ruins everything throwing a snit fit. I'll destroy her and you and all of it. And just, this is, I am going to take my ball and go home.
You beat me at chess, so I'm going to knock the board over.
The board over and stomp on all the pieces. So that is using the, in our opinions, and objectively true opinion, superior 2014 role-playing trait ideal bond and flaw. Now we mentioned, so first thing, I hope everyone can see pretty clearly, great Dark Lord. Hope we've established that. We've proven our thesis statement. But we said that, don't turn it off. We said there is a fascinating setting before the events of Force Awakens. It's barely touched on in the movies, but it's a great place to put your pieces.
Yes.
And then to talk about that fascinating setting in a section we like to call
The Land. The Land. The New Republic governs the unknown regions, if government is the correct term for their form of leadership. The Senate is terrified of producing another Palpatine, and to prevent this, they ensure that every possible action is wrapped in layers of bureaucracy. If dozens of politicians must approve every decision, no one of them can seize too much power. While a noble idea in theory, this inertia has allowed the First Order to flourish. The Senate is unable to come to a firm consensus as to whether the First Order is a true danger or simply a group of glorified mummers in Imperial uniforms, and without such a consensus, they are too timid to act. At the time I visited the unknown regions, the Senate was voting on whether or not to form an investigative committee, which would determine what sort of investigative committee could best research the First Order. I'm not jesting. Unsurprisingly, those who take the threat of the First Order seriously are not willing to wait while the New Republic votes on what color ink the committee should use for their reports. Therefore, there are some within the new regime who have begun to move against the First Order in secret, gathering information or making strikes without the formal approval of the Senate. The First Order, meanwhile, prefers using agents that cannot be traced back to them directly, as moving too blatantly would risk awakening the sleeping giant of the New Republic. This makes the unknown regions a haven for mercenaries and smugglers, a fact that had Aphra and her crew all but salivating as they described the situation to me. Even more exciting for Aphra herself was the wealth of magic items and other treasures within the unknown regions. These are, again, some of the most remote islands within all of the Stellar Archipelago, and are far from the reach of the Imperium. Items that would long ago have been fed to the Black Citadel in the Hub or the Outer Rim have remained undiscovered here, and there are ruins that predate the Republic itself. Apparently, bringing an item from another part of the archipelago to the unknown regions was a reversal of Aphra's usual line of business, although she did admit under some pressure that the division between the unknown regions and the other parts of the archipelago could be as illusory as the difference between the Midrim and the Hub. The islands sometimes had different names. The island that I had known as Tatooine was now inexplicably called Jakku, and Hosnian Prime was obviously Coruscant. But they were the same. It seemed that the unknown regions, too, were separated by time as well as space. This was suggested in ways other than the nature of the islands. While everyone in the unknown regions claimed that the Imperium had been conclusively defeated, many went so far as to aver that Palpatine was dead. Accounts of his death were muddled and contradictory, that a group of adventurers had stormed the Black Citadel and put him to the sword, that the Citadel had exploded and killed him in a rush of uncontrolled magical energy, even that Darth Vader himself had repented of his evil ways and slain his former liege. Nevertheless, the similarities to accounts of Dooku's death in every domain except the Mid-Rim are too compelling to ignore. Similarly, assuming that Palpatine and Sidious are separate beings, which I find increasingly dubious, Sidious's own followers believe him to be destroyed as well. Several former Inquisitors, calling themselves the Knights of Ren, have banded together to find what power they can in the wake of his death, and there are rumors of Sith cultists attempting to summon him once more, an act that, of course, would be unnecessary if he were still present. On the other hand, well, I have not spoken of this yet, but when I have chosen to sleep in the Stellar Archipelago, my dreams have often had an oddly portentous feel. According to the Jedi I spoke to in the Mid-Rim, this is fairly common for magic users. They hold that magic is a living force with a will of its own, sending signs and visions to those who wield it. I have no idea why the abstract concept of magic would want me to dream about a human-sized, 8-legged lizard with the power to make himself invisible, but I suppose ordinary, arbitrary dreams can sometimes feel portentous as well. One dream that was certainly worthy of note, however, came a few days before we were due to deliver the cauldron to Kylo Ren. I dreamt that I was in a cozy, book-lined study, seated across a desk from an avuncular old man with the second beakiest nose I had seen of late. He gave me a kindly smile as he stood.
"Hello, child. You're a long way from home."
I stood too, quickly enough to knock my chair to the floor. "I don't know who you are, and I don't care. Get the hell out of my head."
Do forgive the intrusion. I fear this is the only opportunity I have to speak with you, for I'm a very busy man. My name is Palpatine.
So, as we mentioned at the beginning, the unknown regions, it was the area where the Empire had the least presence. Mm-hmm. You know, they did win the Clone Wars, they did rule, but they had the least presence. And the Rebel presence was actually able to win and was able to, some years ago, overthrow the Empire and create the New Republic. And then we had this Imperial remnant hiding and waiting and building up their forces and growing stronger. And most of them don't realize they're specifically being manipulated by these Sith cultists, which we'll get into later. Then you've got these cultists of Palpatine are kind of at the heart of the First Order and are manipulating things. And they kind of got it, so they accepted Kylo Ren as Supreme Leader. But at this point, they're still in the shadows. They have not blown up Hosnian Prime. They haven't launched their Death Star. It is still the beginning of Force Awakens. Now, Force Awakens just wanted to get Empire versus Rebels with different proper nouns.
It did, yes.
It just wanted to get there as fast as possible. But we can't just be, is this again? Like, they needed to have an interim step to cover Return of the Jedi to Force Awakens.
Yes.
And I think that actually is a fascinating political setup that gets developed in some of the expanded materials, books, etc. It's super skated over in the actual movie itself, in Force Awakens itself.
Somehow fascism returned.
But it's there. So the New Republic is the dominant government of this region of the archipelago. They have the most powerful military forces, too. If they were to do a complete military war against the First Order, they would win. And that's why the First Order is still in the shadows. Don't see them officially as a real threat. They see them as like a couple of like weird Imperial holdouts have recruited these like, dumb kids, and they're basically like gangsters with delusions of grandeur. They're just like, weird militia guys in the woods. And you're like, that's bad and all, but like I
We have
can
bigger problems right now.
I can basically ignore that. Like they're just gonna run around in the woods and fire guns. And part of the reason there is this kind of blindness to the real threat they present is there are Imperial sympathizers in the Senate and the government. They're like deliberately downplay. They're part of this grand plan to revive the Empire, and they are like deliberately, worm-tonguing the Senate and kind of where they can manipulating the intelligence they have and things like that.
Was it season 3 of Mando where we got a random episode like that was like the Imperial sympathizer lady manipulating the one guy? Yeah. And it was totally to set up for Thrawn.
Weird Andor-esque.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
But it's not just that you have Imperial sympathizers manipulating things. Because once again, there's not enough of them to really change things. They can just take advantage of what's already there, which is most of the people in the New Republic don't want a big military buildup. They don't want to expand the military, and they don't want a war. And some of that is inertia. Some of it is a kind of a laziness. Some of it is like, once again, legitimate fear of like another empire coming out of it. Of like, hey, that was the Clone Wars. That is how we got the Empire in the first place, with this war that launched a hyper-militarization. So we're trying as much as possible to prevent that from happening. So that's interesting, right?
It is interesting, yeah.
And all of those things, the Imperial sympathizers can take advantage of that. There are, however, some in the Senate and in the military who see the problem, recognize the scale of the threat, and so they're engaged. This is off the books covert operations. So you have this organization called the Resistance. Technically, they're like an extrajudicial paramilitary organization. Technically, they're like vigilantes. They are, however, getting a lot of like black ops funding and support and intelligence from the Republic. Like they have these allies in the Republic military and the Republic government that are feeding them stuff. But everything they do has to be off the books. Like it has to always be plausible deniability. And this is this really great kind of Cold War, shadow war conflict going on that is such a good place to put PCs.
Yeah.
Like, as we kind of established with some of stuff with the Outer Rim, they have the crime syndicates, that they don't want to fully go to war with each other.
Right.
Because that would bring down the Empire. So they do go to war, but it's a lot of the back and forth, move and counter move is more Cold War. And that's perfect to put in PCs. Similarly, this is kind of these two paramilitary organizations fighting each other, trying to like win over the Senate and get the support of the Senate, or even just keep off the Senate's radar. And that is such a good place to put PCs.
Yeah.
We have got a couple of potential locations, a couple of potential NPCs to talk about. And the first is, I can't believe it's not Coruscant. Literally.
There's a point later in the outline, dear listeners, where I had a thing and I wrote, when Starkiller Base blows up Coruscant, and Thomas Taylor Hassian Prime. And I'm like, what did you say, honey? Hassian Prime. What's a Hassian Prime?
What are you saying?
Like, I had no idea it wasn't
not
Coruscant.
Yes.
Like, I'm just, why are you muttering Star Wars gibberish at me? And what does it have to do with Starkiller Base blowing up Coruscant?
So Hassian Prime is the island. It is like Coruscant, a
Similar
city,
to, but legally the
a
same
Manhattan-esque like island covered in giant skyscrapers. It is the capital of the New Republic, and it is where we're going to be the center of a lot of our political dramas and our intrigue stories. So once again, like with some of the stuff with having the Senate still around in our Darth Vader domain, you could have a very like Game of Thrones political maneuvering over the votes in the Senate. And that would be in Hassian Prime.
Not Coruscant.
Not Coruscant. Though, put a pin in it. Then you have Starkiller Base. And this is, of course, the major headquarters base of the First Order. This is their, like, island where the majority of their forces are gathered. This is their sort of core.
This is live, baby. I forgot to mention.
Baby.
We're trying to come up with what's going to be our version of this. Like how we did the Black Citadel for the Death Star, and we were having trouble coming up with anything. An Nihilist base.
Ooh,
Get that sphere of annihilation imagery.
Please write that down right there. Annihilus base. So, it is also their doomsday weapon. It just lets you do all those great Death Star stories that you could have in the original trilogy timeline, finding the plans, rescuing the plans, infiltrating it, all that. In our version, because once again, we with our version of the Death Star, the Black Citadel wasn't just a big laser.
Right.
And similar with this, we don't want to be exactly the same as the Black Citadel, but we don't want to be bigger laser. So remember, this was your idea, and this is great. That's why we're calling it Annihilus base.
Yes, because when we were watching it, the whole, blowing up planets from afar, that's bad and all, but for me, the creepiest thing about Starkiller Base is the titular star killing. The fact that it has to kill a star in order to power itself, and that's just, that's tapping into my Dark Phoenix stuff there. That's good stuff. And there is an exact analog for that in Dungeons & Dragons, which is Defiler magic. So if you are not familiar with Dark Sun and have not listened to our Thanos episode, that's draining life force to power your magic. And with Annihilus base, it just kills an entire island.
Yeah.
It just sucks all the life force out of an entire island and leaves it this blackened desert on which nothing will ever grow again because there are no nutrients left in the soil.
So we're imagining it is just like with the Black Citadel, it's a floating citadel. It's like a giant castle that can fly, and it'll just hover above an island and then start a procedure that drains every scrap of life energy from that island, and then that powers up the magical weapons, possibly including a giant laser. And then we have Canto Bite, which is great because we don't have a kind of high society fancy casino setting in other parts of Star Wars. So this is great for doing heists, heists. Casino heists. They're the best kind of heists.
They are the best kind of heists.
Even better than bank heists, because you have to dress in fancy clothes and mingle and gamble. And that this is a place where we have all these arms dealers do business, and so if you're doing the kind of intrigue story, it's really easy to work in Canto Bite. They're trying to stop a big arms deal. They're trying to expose a big arms deal. Once again, if you can expose that the First Order is buying 8 million TIE fighters from the TIE fighter factory, and they're negotiating on Canto Bite, then you can bring that to the Senate, and then be like, okay, I guess we'll fund the military some more. And Dakar is the island where the Resistance has their base. Just, you're going to need one. If you're playing this game, they're going to say, where are we going? You need to have an answer, and the answer is Dakar. So there you go.
My favorite thing about Dakar is when he has banter with Londo Mollari.
I love you so
I love you too.
Then a little deep cut, the Star Wars Resistance cartoon, which I was not a huge fan of. But it does have a neat setting, which is this place called the Colossus, which is this kind of giant platform. So kind of, the equivalent of a space station. It's not a natural island. It's this huge platform, almost an oil rig in this important, transitional part of the archipelago. So it's like this, really important way station. And it's neutral, but both sides have agents on Colossus Base and are trying to influence the people and the authorities of Colossus Base to join either side. So that's good, like the Resistance cartoon. That's good for small scale stories, especially this would be a good one shot. I want to just have this microcosm of this part of the galactic status quo. You could do it there. Then a place that might be one of the large ships that might be doing a way station for provisions and refueling and getting fresh water at the Colossus platform is, of course, the Halcyon. The luxurious cruise, travel ship, travel in luxury, see the wonders of the archipelago.
It's luxurious, but it has such tiny cabins.
And it's so expensive.
It's so expensive.
It has a theater, but you might not get a good seat to see the performance. For those of you who aren't clued in on the specific deep nerd cut because no one uses the actual name, the Halcyon Star Cruiser was the Star Wars Hotel.
Yeah.
So you actually could have the Star Wars hotel.
You could.
Have a story in the Star Wars hotel in this part of the setting.
I would not be able to resist having a story in
Yeah.
the Star Wars hotel. On the off chance you haven't watched yet, because
Yeah,
I feel
right.
like the Venn diagram of people who listen to our podcast and people who have seen Jenny Nicholson's video
Yes.
is a circle.
Pretty large overlap.
But we will link it in the show notes just in case. I know it's 4 hours.
I'm sure she can really use our support.
for sure.
She really needs our support.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For freaking millions of views. She should link us in the show notes. You hear me, Nicholson?
It's 4 hours long, but that's 2 episodes of Wonderful World of Dark
Yeah,
Lords.
right. We have that in common as well. And finally, one more world, and this is one that this is sort of a part of my lukewarm defense of Rise of Skywalker, is I think it's got a lot of really cool locations and a lot of really good scenes. My fundamental defense is I think every individual scene is good.
Yeah. I
And-
agree with that.
Especially the scenes in Exegol. Like, Exegol is so cool, and it looks so cool, and it's such a cool idea.
It is really cool.
So this is this forbidden, legendary, like, boogeyman, lost island. It's the homeworld of the Sith cult. It's got like this huge Sith temple there that's all full of dark side power. And it's impossible to get through the storms around Exegol, to find it and get through the storms and arrive there without these like special magical wayfinders. And this is the place where Sidious will communicate sometimes with his cultists. Like, this is sort of the headquarters of the Sith cult. This is where they're spreading their influence and manipulating galactic events for his master plan. This is the place where he has these cultists doing these like dark experiments. He has all the crazy like dark alchemy, evil magic, and he's like building up this secret army for like when he's ready to execute his master plan.
And if you want to have like the creepy, weird, like Palpatine lich
So
imagery,
cool.
it's so cool.
It's like a robot marionette,
Yes.
like decaying clone Palpatine. It's so cool.
You know, he's only communicating with them
Right.
indirectly, so they've built this like 5e Ivan Delisnia clockwork monstrosity for him to communicate through.
Or maybe like the way he communicates is like they sort of build him these clone bodies with like the clone spell, and he can like temporarily possess them.
Yeah.
But then they start rotting. Like as
that's so
as soon
cool.
as he
Oh, that's
possesses
so
them, they
cool.
start. So they had to build him the like cyber framework so he could be there for like longer term.
Does he get a spider pram?
Definitely gets a spider frame. So yes, this is going to be like your final boss. This is the dungeon. This is the Tomb of Annihilation.
Yes, the dungeon
This
of all
the
dungeons.
dungeon of all dungeons. The like giant, temple of elemental evil type thing. This is just a massive evil magic fortress. And that you have to get a magic item to get to because it's this lost forbidden island. And that is sick.
That is sick.
And finally, we just added, there's not a lot of like factions. We kind of already went of those with the political setup, but I think the character of General Hux, who is another great, very much a light of the sequel trilogy,
Yes.
is this pathetic little weasel.
Is a pathetic little weasel. Just loser man.
And it's like undeveloped in Rise of Skywalker, but there is a story there that's going to be very interesting for your PCs to play with.
Yeah, I think the way to do Hux in our version, because before it was him and Kylo Ren kind of jockeying for Snoke's favor, and then Kylo Ren was like, or I could just kill Snoke and become supreme leader, and we're cutting Snoke out entirely, but you could with Hux have it be more the like. He just wants a new empire.
Yeah.
He is not in for all this Sith mystical woo-woo.
Right, you got a little bit of that in Rise of Skywalker. Like,
Yeah.
he is very skeptical of like evil rituals
Yeah.
and like dark magic.
So, like, all this Sith stuff, all this, like, who cares if you're the son of Vader? My granddad was a senator, I will have
Yeah.
you know. That could be an interesting fracture point.
Yeah.
I love Captain Phasma. Love is not a strong enough word for my feelings for Captain Phasma. I can't think of anything
Just to
interesting
say, other than,
other than that
she's
great,
cool.
yes.
She'd be like a good mini boss. She looks cool. In my understanding of history, many fascist states have had like a weird mystical woo-woo
Yes.
side, classically the Nazis with your Raiders of the Lost Ark type stuff and your like weird, archaeology things. And I believe some of the other like big fascist moments in history have had a similar thing. And that is a really interesting, like, point of tension.
Yes.
Of the people who are like, no, Hux totally believes in the political ideology of the Empire, but he doesn't want the woo-woo.
It's even actually come to think that there's something interesting there with the Nazi woo-woo, and it was kind of this mystical, like, getting into this, like, old Norse Germanic myth.
Yeah.
So it even is kind of the, like, Kylo Ren reaching back to the past.
Yeah.
And the past also being mysticism, and you could have Hux as being kind of much more this, like...
Progress,
and
the futurist,
Yeah, that could be really interesting.
And once again, this ties into, we said we want this to be the dark fantasy, the magic dagger, the Lost Temple, the Indiana Jones domain. And having that be like a big part of the First Order is this very Nazis from Indiana Jones, like digging up, magic boxes that shoot lasers.
I am just imagining Hux's face getting melted off now, and I'm happy.
So, we have talked about what I think is a really fascinating political setup that is immediately exploded in Force Awakens. And we've talked about, I think, some of the ways that setup would engage PCs, but now let's talk a bit more about exactly what kinds of experiences your PCs might have there. Rachel, what do you do with it?
Dread possibilities. I eyed Palpatine as warily as I would have if I had learned that I were locked in this study with a tiger. I'd heard you were dead.
Time is strange in these lands, and it seems to me you know that life and death are not absolutes.
Did that mean that he sensed the necrotic energy suffusing me? Was he implying that he was undead? But if he and Sidious were one and the same, how could a fiend become undead? Maybe Sidious was alive and well and puppeting Palpatine's corpse, but that didn't square with the Knights of Ren and their belief that the Archdevil was gone. I shook my head, but I couldn't afford to get distracted right now. I would dearly love to press you for details, but something tells me you aren't here to give me an interview. He chuckled warmly.
No, I'm here to make you an offer. Then I'll leave you to your sleep.
Oh, God's another one. I let out a resigned sigh and spread my hands, inviting him to continue. Palpatine gestured, and the cauldron we had acquired on Dathomir materialized on his desk. The green ichor that filled it was gone, revealing an interior engraved with glyphs.
You are delivering this artifact to Kylo Ren. Ren is in need of guidance. He is a man of great potential, and I want to help him achieve that potential. If you were to make certain alterations in the glyphs on the interior of the cauldron...
A handful of the glyphs glowed red, the lines shifting subtly.
It would be easier for me to communicate with him, even in this realm.
He was coming into my dreams and trying to manipulate someone by carving glyphs. My hand crept unconsciously to my bodice. He had really chosen the wrong cat's paw for this. I thought of using Eldritch Sight to determine the purpose of the sigils, but discarded the idea immediately. Palpatine was controlling this dream and would show me whatever he wanted me to see. I would have to research this when I awoke. There are hundreds of people in the First Order who are far more inclined to do the bidding of a despot than I am. Why are you coming to me? He gave me a hurt look.
Despot? I love democracy. But surely you know that Ren needs counsel if he is to avoid becoming a despot himself. You have access to the cauldron before he acquires it. I prefer that he not discover these alterations. He has all the headstrong rebelliousness of youth and might believe himself above the words of an old man. Furthermore, you are a stranger to these lands, and I do not believe you are planning to stay. Help me with this small thing, and I'll personally guarantee your safe passage home.
I've seen the fruits of far too many of your personal guarantees to agree to that. Thank you.
Oh dear. Well, if you don't help me, I can't guarantee you'll ever get home again.
How do you intend enough to prevent me from getting home. You can't even find someone to do this task for you other than a woman who has no loyalty to you and no reason to trust you. I frowned. I had meant the question almost rhetorically, but now I was genuinely turning it over. In any other region of the Stellar Archipelago, Palpatine or Sidious or both or whoever this was, he would never have had to stoop so low as to ask me for help. My mind went back to what I had been told after viewing the Black Citadel, that I had a particular sensitivity to magic. Was he approaching one of the only people in the unknown regions who could perceive him? You don't have any power here at all, do you? I didn't realize I had spoken the words aloud until Palpatine's face darkened. No, it wasn't just his face. The whole room had become darker, colder.
You impudent child,
he snarled. How had I thought his face kindly? It was the grayish white of a corpse, as shriveled as a piece of dried fruit, and his nobleman's clothing had been replaced by a black robe.
do as I say, or my agents in the First Order will show you exactly how powerless I am. They will bring you to me, and I will entomb you in the Citadel myself. You can serve me in this, or you can serve me as fuel.
You may castigate me for hurling witless insults, if you like, Master. But it is an easy thing to make critiques from the safety of one's castle. I knew that if I showed fear or weakness to this thing, he would seize upon it and I would be lost. I forced a scornful laugh. If you knew whom I've been serving for the past 4 years, you would know why I'm not afraid of you.
You will be.
Lightning arced from his hands. I woke up screaming, surrounded by the smell of my own cooking flesh. It wasn't as bad as I feared, but my skin was burned, and wisps of smoke rose from my nightclothes. I eschewed sleep from that point on. The cauldron had an aura of necromancy, after sketching the glyphs Palpatine had shown me and using Eldritch Sight upon them, which I did at a port where we stopped for supplies, not on the Archangel itself, and I burned the parchment immediately afterwards. I'm not an idiot, thank you. I determined that they would change the magic from necromancy to illusion. It was difficult to see how this change would be advantageous if the cauldron were similar to Iran's, with its necromantic powers creating an army of undead. If, on the other hand, it were intended to allow Kylo Ren to communicate with the dead, say, with his dead father, it was easy to imagine why Palpatine would prefer a version of Vader that was entirely his creation, telling Ren whatever he wanted the fool to hear. I had no intention of doing Sidious's will, but the idea of Kylo Ren speaking to the real Vader was hardly an appealing one either. I felt a small stab of guilt at what I did next, but it would have been a larger one if I had thought for a moment that Aphra and her crew weren't planning to steal my magic items and turn them in for the bounty when this job was done. Or that they wouldn't turn me in just as readily if they learned I had magic of my own. I cast Hypnotic Pattern on the bugbear who was guarding the cauldron, threw the cauldron into the ocean, and bought passage under an assumed name on a ship leaving the port. I did leave a purse on the table where the cauldron had been, but the sum wasn't close to the exorbitant one that Aphra had initially quoted me for passage. No matter. Let Aphra find some other source of income. Let Kylo Ren find some other magic item to fill the gaping hole in his spoiled, stupid heart. Let Sidious find another tool. I am a pawn on one board already. I will not be played on any others.
I want adventure in the great wide somewhere.
I want it more than I can tell.
So what brought your group of heavily armed transients, presumably in a ship of some kind, either air or seafaring vessel, to this particular stretch of the Stellar Archipelago / the Star Wars kind of cosmos? And a first couple of things are based in that sort of, in our opinion, very fruitful pre-Force Awakens political setup. And the first is, once again, you have the New Republic. This is the place where the good guys want.
Yes.
Like, this is the place where they can escape from the Empire and not be in the Clone Wars. And, like, they can just go live, and generally things are, like, peaceful, stable democracy.
Yeah.
And so this is an X that's really hard to get to. We mentioned that's the hardest to get to of any of these regions. But that in itself, you could have this whole interesting quest of whether you're in the hub, whether you're in the outer rim, like you're trying to escape the Empire. Like this is the sort of ultimate destination. You're trying to sneak magic users away from the Empire. This is the ultimate destination where they'll be safe.
Yeah.
And then we also mentioned that whole setup of the New Republic government and then the Resistance and the First Order as these like paramilitary forces. That creates a sort of Cold War tension, which we kind of mentioned, gives you that need for heavily armed transients. Right? Like both sides need a lot of plausible deniability.
Yeah, they don't want to send any of their own people to go investigate these guys because that would mean that, that they officially think that these guys are a problem. Maybe not as much of a problem as a cat jumping on the couch, but a problem.
Or even just they might have this mission they need to do, but it's better if it can be a group of mercenaries or a group of just wandering do-gooders that they can hire to go do this mission, because then that much decreases the risk of them having some kind of scandal in the Senate.
Yeah.
And then finally, we mentioned for this particular flavor of Star Wars we're going for here, we're going for the dark fantasy one, specifically taking from Rise of Skywalker and the MacGuffin knife search, and the idea of like, this is the Indiana Jones domain. This is the treasure hunt domain. This is the domain where you have all these uncharted islands with hidden temples, with hidden cities, with secret lost treasures and tombs full of traps and just all that sort of wonderful, like, dark fantasy MacGuffin treasure hunt type story you can generate. And once again, the great thing is they could pick up this thread anywhere in any of the other domains.
Yes.
We need the dagger of plutonium, and, like, our research in the archives show us that the last known place was a uncharted island in the uncharted region. So we have that whole quest to get here, and then we have to go through the temple full of magical traps.
Yeah, and like that's a great one for bringing them in, not just from Star Wars, but from anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah, absolutely. So once they have arrived, either for political reasons or for treasure hunty reasons, both sides of the Indiana Jones spectrum, what kind of adventures are they going to do here? And we've talked about some of that already with the kind of political setup that gives us these plot hooks.
The core story engine, it's still that, like, Rebels versus Imperials thing, but it's a much more, like, Cold War context. It's much easier to interject PCs because you've got kind of, like, that whole Shadow War thing happening. It's a bit like, when we talked about Count Dooku and the Clone Wars, and kind of that if you wanted to set it before the Clone Wars started, this is kind of a domain where that's the status quo, where you've got like this political, like, feinting and maneuvering, and things are on the brink of war, but they're not there yet, and then there are secret spies in the Senate, and some of them are in fact infernal cultists. Like,
good stuff.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Yeah. Like if you liked that idea, but you also wanted to run just straight up Clone Wars, then this is the domain where you can do that. You've got lots of chances for, like, stealth, or for combat, or for social manipulation, or for dungeon diving, or just all kinds of stories. And then, because this is one where, like, magic users can openly be magic using, this is one where you can just have your more classic D&D type stories. You don't have to worry about, your wizard always having to hide their spell books, and you can't, like, be brandishing your +1 sword out in the open because it's going to be taken and melted down and put into the Death Star. Like, this is one where you can just be straight up D&Ding around, which, even in the Clone Wars, if you're straight up D&Ding around, people are like, oh, you're a Jedi.
Yeah. Or, like, in the Clone Wars, you're going to be pulled into the war. Like, the war is such a big thing and such a, like, the defining galaxy spanning event that I imagine it'd be kind of hard and weird and pointless to do a bunch of plots for your PCs that don't involve the Clone Wars. Whereas
like,
here,
why are you even doing Clone Wars if you're not going to do Clone Wars?
Whereas here, like, you have a bit more space because this Shadow War manifests in a lot more different ways that could be different types of story. And it could, like, manifest in different ways. And so you could have I think you have a lot more variety in the kind of stories you're telling in this domain with your magic user just out in the open casting Prestidigitation and Mage Hand and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then finally, that's like just story engines that could, like, generate different kinds of plots and whatever kind of intrigue, whatever kind of political maneuvering, whatever kind of full-on like combat, like raiding, your classic Star Wars rebels sneaking in to blow up the First Order tanks or whatever. But for a big campaign, I really like this. We have this template. You can do the full Force Awakens. You can like take this domain and make it your own and have these huge status quo changes, because none of this is part of Kylo's torment. Like, this is, I think, we put this as the status quo as the canon because it's the most fruitful for generating stories for your PCs, but it's nothing inherent locked to the setting. So you can do these huge, like, it's this Cold War, and you have some adventures around that Cold War, and you're, like, starting to push the New Republic to recognize the danger of the First Order, but then the First Order launches their attack, unleashes an Nihilist base, destroys the capital, kind of eviscerates the New Republic, and then you, like, transition into that classic rest of the sequel trilogy, like First Order, Resistance, Rebels versus Empire kind of thing, and like you were in the front seat for all of that. Like, your PCs were like seeing all the status quo changes happen.
Or one of the great things with Kylo Ren as a Dark Lord, because you mentioned all this isn't part of his torment inherently, you have almost as much flexibility with Kylo Ren as a Dark Lord as you do with Maul.
Yeah,
because like, okay, maybe you do, like, basically it follows Force Awakens, and they're kind of in the same places they are at the end of Last Jedi, but it could be that you completely kick the First Order's butt, you take them down to nothing, and Kylo Ren knows that this is his fault because he's not a worthy heir to Vader.
Oh, that's good.
It's like him and 3 guys, and he knows it's because of him. Or conversely, maybe the First Order, like, full-on wins, and he still isn't happy. That empty place inside of him, like Jack Skellington's, is still there.
Yes, exactly. Well, I love that idea that this is one where the PCs have so much plot control.
Yeah.
It's like, I love that. You could actually be super successful in the Cold War element and like, get the New Republic to wake up the sleeping giant. They break the back of the First Order. You blow up the Doomsday weapon before they get to fire it. You stop them from destroying. You really can do that full AU, and none of that affects it. That's so true. And so, as many Star Wars types of stories as you could do, you can do here. It is like you said, with Star Wars, it is that infinite story engine, and it is trying to be as close for a lot of it as your classic original trilogy, Empire versus Rebels. So it means it's just a fruitful story engine as that. But you have this really interesting, in our opinion, political setup in our canon setting as well.
Yeah.
So now we have this infinite story engine, and we mentioned a couple of varieties of plots you could run, but now let's mention a couple of varieties of style of campaign, tones of campaigns in our Dread Possibility section. And so the first thing we're going to do in our Dread Possibility section is talk about running it for a age range of different players. And this is especially true for Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to have tables of 10-year-olds that want to play Star Wars. You're going to have tables of 40-year-olds that want to play Star Wars.
As mentioned, Tom and our 7-year-old both have Star Wars pajamas.
We do indeed. So I always like to start the Dread Possibility section with our aging down or aging up, running it for those younger players or older players. Younger players, I think, especially is interesting here. Because I think it's younger players that are going to have the strongest affection for the sequel trilogy.
Yes, absolutely.
Like, this is the great untested theory. It's the whole, those of you, our younger listeners, everyone hated the prequel trilogy. Like, every Star Wars fan hated the prequel trilogy and said it ruined Star Wars.
Yes.
And then you have the fandom really kind of turn around and accept a lot of that as the people that grew up with the prequel trilogy kind of moved into the mainstream.
I saw the most adorable thing on social media the other day that was someone saying, "Man, I miss early 2000s Star Wars fandom." And everyone's like, really?
My sweet summer child.
You miss it because you were 12?
Yes, because you were not having people argue about the presentation of Mandalorians in the Clone Wars versus the novels of Karen Travis. Google it, kids. So it's that big question mark. Is this same thing going to happen? Like, you might say, well, there's a lot of rejection of the sequel trilogy with the sort of adult fandom, making a lot of the media, doing a lot of the social media. but you have all those kids that, you know, watched it and loved it fine. And as they grow up, is this going to have another turn? And either way, even if there's not a full-on, like, turn in the whole community, I think younger players are not going to have hang-ups about the sequel trilogy. They're just going to be like, yeah, it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. Sure. Pew, pew, lightsabers. TIE fighters. Pew, pew, pew. And go to the true spirit of Star Wars. So one of the big things is with that, if they have that deep connection to the sequel trilogy, that's great for engagement with this domain. There's also this question of Kylo Ren. And that, like, the first kind of slide, or the first thing to think about setting this for younger players, can they save Kylo Ren?
Yes.
Because once again, there are younger people who that might be a very significant story arc. Like, that might, Kylo's redemption really matters to them, in which case you want to know that and you want to, like, build something in for them. Then you're pretty much set with the sort of Rebels versus Empire resistance stories and, like, the treasure hunt stories. Like, you have a million models to draw from in terms of what's a good tone to set for that, what's a good, like, violence content to set for that for younger players, younger viewers, younger whatever. The question mark that might be a little trickier is those, like, political intrigue stories, because it's once again, like, sort of political intrigue for 10-year-olds. But this would be a great place to look at some of the Padme-centric episodes of Clone Wars, because that basically was a lot of times trying to do political intrigue for 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they would be deeply stupid in a wonderful 10-year-old way. It would be like, Senator Jerko is
Being a jerk.
and he's stopping us from voting on this bill to give everyone free puppies.
What a jerk!
And then, wait a minute, let's sneak around to his office. He's talking to the separatists. Why? Look, they're giving him a big suitcase full of money, and now he's just sort of throwing it around and cackling. It would be that kind of, like,
saying, no, I'll buy all the puppies for myself.
I've cornered the market on puppies. And like that kind of, like, super simplistic, like, this is a political intrigue story for 10-year-olds.
Yes.
So that could also serve as a good model for, like, Senator Jerko is refusing to listen when we say the First Order is blowing up planet. Like,
But it turns out that it's because he's working for the First Order.
right, because we, like, kind of snuck, you know, hid behind a corner and eavesdropped on his loud speakerphone conversation with Kylo Ren. And one final thing to think about is, we mentioned this with this issue with a lot of Star Wars settings, some kids are going to want to be Jedi. Like, for them, it's going to be like, this is the sort of main characters of Star Wars. To be a Star Wars protagonist is to be a Jedi. We've deliberately left a lot of space. There easily could be some Jedi around. There kind of was a full-on Purge in the sequel trilogy, but we're leaving that open for you.
Yeah. You could be somebody who, you know, escaped Kylo Ren wrecking the temple. You could be somebody who got smuggled there from one of the other domains. Like, there's plenty of room for Jedi here.
So then you have the much thornier issue of running this for a table of 40-year-olds. What about aging up?
Well, the fun thing with aging up here is you can get into really super complex stories. You have a lot of room to play around and fill things in because we get so little of the setup in the movies. So if you want to do Game of Thrones, this is a fantastic place to do Game of Thrones because you don't have to feel at all beholden to canon. Like, if you wanted to do kind of more Andor-like stories in the Empire, even though this isn't actually Star Wars, it's Star Wars Ravenloft, there might be that little voice in your head being like, oh, I want to do this thing where this planet has a bunch of rebel sympathizers, but they were totally Imperial, though. And here, you don't have any of that. There is, like, so little lore. You are free to do whatever you want. And so you can get extremely complex, extremely Game of Thrones, not Senator Jerko and his
loud
full of money,
speakerphone conversation. And once again, that whole, you're free, like, you can do political intrigue in, like, an Andor original trilogy setting, in a Clone War setting, but those are all, like, locked in on their canon. It was like nothing your PCs can do can stop the Clone Wars from happening.
Yeah.
But here you can.
Yeah.
Here you have so much more freedom to define how kind of episode 7 plays out. And also you have that freedom from the historical canon, but also because this is so little touched on, you have a lot of freedom how you want to define this world. Like, okay, what is the Senate? What is the Senate's deal? Why is the Senate ignoring the First Order? Like, how are they different from the Senate in the Old Republic? Or do they do it exactly the same? And you could come up with some really interesting, fruitful backstory stuff and social structure to generate stories that are interesting for your PCs.
And then the other big thing for aging up is that, like, in Force Awakens, it was an issue. That the destruction of Hosnian Prime, which apparently isn't Coruscant.
This is not Coruscant.
It should have been like this, oh wow moment. Like we actually see the people. It's not like Alderaan where we just watch the planet explode. We actually see the people seeing it coming, and like it should have been a big deal. It didn't really feel like a big deal. Yeah. Like it just felt like, this is the part in the script where the stakes get raised. But you could, if you want to do that kind of Force Awakens-esque story where the First Order reveals their hand, then you could make that hit really hard. You could make them do something really horrible that is going to gut punch the PCs. And that could be fun.
So we always do the aging down younger players, aging up older players suggestions. Then this is also where we put in any AU possibilities we have. One of those we've kind of already mentioned. So we mentioned, our canon setting is before Episode 7, but the vast majority of sequel trilogy media is post the Fall of the New Republic. Is post, like, the events of Force Awakens. Especially since Last Jedi is pretty much right after Force Awakens. A lot of the material is set between 8 and 9. Because that's when you have the gangs all together, and you have your classic First Order runs the galaxy, and the Resistance is running around being rebels again, and lends itself very well. So, honestly, I think if you were to just tell a group of people, we are doing this in a Star Wars sequel trilogy-inspired setting, that's what they're going to assume.
I mean, that's what the Star Wars rides are set in.
Yes,
right?
all the rides, the Galactic Star Cruiser, all that stuff. It's like how you had that stretch that passes between New Hope and Empire, and that's like 90% of the material about the main characters going around having rebel adventures. So just be aware of that, and that is something to consider, because that does let you do that spin on some of those classic rebel adventures. But now here we go. Okay.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Even if you don't care about sequel trilogy at all, if you've been listening and you've been hearing us talk about this potential AU involving Palpatine, involving our archdevil, Palpatine / Sidious, this is now where we are going to lay out an AU not just for this Star Wars domain, but for our whole archipelago of Star Wars domains.
Yes, and this is the thing that got me real excited, because we were talking about kind of the timey-wimey aspect, and that was something that I was really having trouble hanging my hat on when we were discussing it at first. And you don't have to have a timey-wimey aspect at all. Like, in our fiction, we did. In our fiction, we had that Geonosis exists in 2 places at once. You don't have to do that. You can have it be that, like, these are just separated by geography, not by time.
Coruscant and Hosnian Prime are completely different planets.
But if you wanted to be that actually Hosnian Prime is Coruscant.
Yes, Rachel was right all along.
I was right all along. I knew it. I know it. And Jakku is Tatooine. And this is the thing for you. So, in this AU, the domains in the Stellar Archipelago, they're separated not only by geography, but by time. Again, we mentioned that in Vader. We've been teasing this as a possibility, that you meet Anakin Skywalker in Dooku's domain, and then Darth Vader is stomping around in the Imperium. And when they say that Count Dooku's dead, that's not propaganda. They killed Count Dooku.
Yeah.
I remember happening.
You meet 15-year-old Ahsoka, then you meet 30-year-old Ahsoka.
Yeah. And if you do that, then we actually can have Sidious as the darklord of the entire cluster, with a torment and everything. Because in the unknown regions, he's dead.
Yes.
Like, not just, like, banished back to the Nine Hells. He is dead. And that is not a thing that's supposed to happen to archdevils. And he's peered through the mist. It's this part of his cluster that he can't get to. He's tried. He can't do it. He's peered through the mist. He has foreseen it. So, like, he's looked. He can, like, kind of reach through to his, like, weird lich puppet bodies on Exegol and communicate there. But again, he can't go there, and he knows he is dead. Like, he has felt, he has scried, he has done everything he can. There is no trace of him there.
Yes.
And he is absolutely terrified by this. Yeah,
that's his torment.
That's his torment.
His torment is he knows this is coming. He knows as the timeline ticks along, and because of Ravenloft, because of his archdevilness, because of the nature of this particular cluster of domains, he can kind of, like, reach a couple different points of the timeline simultaneously. There's sort of Clone Wars Palpatine and Emperor Palpatine, but they're existing in these different points of the timeline, but they're kind of psychically connected.
Yeah.
He's like sort of aware of that timeline. But here,
Or even like he's going back and forth between the two timelines.
right. And here, flat cutoff.
Flat,
so
yep.
he knows this is coming. He knows every day of his consciousness he's ticking closer. That's his torment.
And everything he's doing, all the webs he's spinning,
Yes.
all the power he's building, is to try and prevent this future that is not preventable. And one of those webs that he could be spinning here is that he's been communicating with Kylo Ren in dreams. And we were watching, right? Well, we tried to rewatch Rise of
We
Skywalker
started
this
rewatching
episode.
Rise of
We got about halfway through, and we're like, life's too short.
This is not great.
But there's this scene where he's like talking to Kylo Ren in the very beginning. Like, it felt so creepily groomy. And we're like, what if he's not just kind of trying to get Kylo Ren to carry out his will here? What if he's actually hoping that he can possess him? Like, we talked about Sidious possessed
Right.
Palpatine. What if he's hoping that here he can possess Kylo
Right.
Ren? And he's like, oh, no, that's the problem. It's not that I'm not here, it's that I'm not here yet. There's this, like, gap of
Yes.
50 years where I vanished, but then I'm going to be back there again because I'm going to possess Kylo Ren and I'll be back. He's not going to be
They
back.
jump from this point to the timeline and possess Kylo Ren. And
Yeah.
that's, And maybe he's even like, hey, magically I won't read as me anymore, but I will exist. I will be, and I will be this very powerful Force user who's at the top of the First Order.
Yeah,
Who is
yeah.
the supreme leader of the First Order. I'm preparing for myself.
And the thing I love about this is, number one, make Sidious a Darklord, which just feels right. And even if you don't want him to be a full-on Darklord, even if you're like, no, I still want him to be this gentleman caller-like figure and the other guys are the Darklords, he's still tormented, which is, that's how Ravenloft is supposed to
Supposed
be.
to be cackling and shooting.
Exactly. Like, even, the gentleman caller is tormented. He is stuck in this boring mud slump trying to get out. Like, all of the fiends in Ravenloft, except the Whistling Fiend who's living his best life, are, like, just tigers in cages. And this allows Sidious to have that torment also. Number two, this means it's canon that Sidious dies. That means that your PCs can be part of how Sidious dies. They can be the ones to kill him. They can be the ones to flip Darth Vader so Darth Vader kills him. Like, because that's the other thing, is that if he's the Dark Lord, then our other quote-unquote Dark Lords can be killed or redeemed without affecting Sidious's torment, or, even making it worse.
That's so good.
Because if you want to redeem Darth Vader and have that will where he turns on Sidious, then you can, because he's not actually a Dark Lord. And guess what? That is how Sidious dies, and all of his plots and all of his webs to prevent this from happening were what caused it to happen, which is beautiful. Or you know what? If you want to give that to Maul, if you're like, this boy deserves this, then
he's
you
gone.
can.
He deserves to kill this guy. His bad lightning dad.
He does deserve to kill his abusive lightning dad.
Okay, wow. So a lot. This is the thing. Cons, you have to get weird and timey-wimey. And that's why we're not doing this in the canon settings. This is too weird. This is too timey-wimey. This is too like an episode of Doctor Who where the Doctor explains this very fast. So just sort of like, I guess so, okay. No, we don't have time to ask questions. Gotta move on. Daleks. So you have to have that. But pros are, you could actually do so much of the core Star Wars story and even have this a full Star Wars timeline and work that in the metaphysics of Ravenloft. And oh boy, I am pretty proud of us for cracking that egg, for figuring out how to have this sort of triple Lutzing on the ice rink as we figure out how to make these two things compatible. So on that note, let's give you our parting thoughts, finally, about this potentially timey-wimey, potentially non-timey-wimey Star Wars domain, this broad expanse of trying to do the whole Star Wars franchise experience. A section I like to call
Parting Thoughts.
So, the first thing we want to do is talk about the genre of horror And this is from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. And now we know from also, which I appreciate, Ravenloft, The Horrors Within, which is, it has these genres of horror. It talks about signifiers of that genre, how domains reflect those genres, and how thinking about the genre can help you do more stuff in the domain.
All the genres are the same, which helps. Occult investigation has a different name in 2024. I don't remember what it is, but it's occult investigation.
And so we like to say that. I think there's one obvious I've said a bunch of times, and that is dark fantasy.
Dark fantasy.
Dark fantasy. I mean, this is just, it is appropriate because fantasy is such a source of Star Wars. And in so much as there's like some of the horror inherent in Star Wars is the horror of evil wizards.
Yes.
Shooting lightning and cackling and choking you with their minds.
Yes, slash evil witches with their necromancy and horrible green light.
Slash like a black knight with a magic red sword. And so I think dark fantasy, especially because, we mentioned before, the specific strand of Star Wars we want to do here is that Indiana Jones, Rise of Skywalker, Magic, Death Star map knife, secret translation, everything like that. That is a strain of Star Wars. That more fantasy, that more treasure hunty, pulp adventure-y. That's something we haven't focused on in the other Star Wars domains. And Rise of Skywalker just give us a good enough reason to make that a strand of this domain.
Absolutely.
And then we like to talk about...
I have another one.
Ooh, you do? My goodness.
I do.
This is live, baby.
Psychological horror.
Right.
Because we've got all the Cold War espionage
Yes,
stuff, and the who
we
can you trust, and the this is where we do that.
Double agents in the Senate.
Exactly.
Love it.
Turn out to be infernal cultists.
Love it. Yes. Oh, brilliant. So this is, I like to think, we've managed to bring out some really interesting stuff and to really make a sequel trilogy setting that is not just the original trilogy with the proper nouns changed. But speaking of taking something and then just changing some of the proper nouns, if people wanted to run this incorporating more of the older 2nd edition, 3rd edition Ravenloft canon that was not in any of the 5e Ravenloft stuff we've had, any suggestions?
Absolutely. So our first couple are going to be, we talked last month with Maul and Death, the Darklord of Necropolis, about how it's not so much bringing older material into this domain as how to bring elements of this domain into the older material. We're going to talk about that again here, starting, once again, with Death.
What a fertile field this weird little, 3E dork has been for,
gosh.
Our Star Wars setting.
So if you didn't listen to the last episode, to recap quickly, Death was the Darklord of Necropolis, which was formerly Illaluk, the capital of Darkon. He was a clone of Azalin. Azalin kind of tried to use him and throw him aside and be done with him, but then Death turned on him, and so now they're kind of stuck with each other, and Azalin is Death's evil dad and will always be Death's evil dad, and Death has huge daddy issues. And
you can see our Darth Maul connection.
You can see our Darth Maul connection, yes. And we were saying last month that if you want to kind of have a voice for Death and you want him to be kind of more grandiose and tragic, then you could basically run Death as Maul. If you just want Death to be the saddest little loser schmuck who throws temper tantrums because he's never going to be as cool as Azalin.
Slashes things with his side.
Slashes things with his side.
Having a temper tantrum.
And, wants to kill Azalin, but also desperately wants Azalin's attention. He wants to kill Azalin, but as he's killing Azalin, he wants Azalin to say, you really were the specialist, boy.
You were my favorite.
Then Kylo Ren is a fantastic model for that just sad putz of a dad.
He's just be like, I want to kill him, but first we should play catch. And as I kill him, he gives me a thumbs up.
The other one, this actually isn't in our notes, this is live, baby,
Woo.
is a domain that has made the jump over into 5e, but only in the really short one-paragraph form. I don't think we've talked about this domain in our podcast before, which is Gehenna, which is the domain run by Yagno Petrovna. And I don't remember what they did with it in the new stuff. I know that it is religious fanaticism stuff. In 2nd edition, it was Petrovna had this whole, like, vision of a god who was demanding sacrifices from him and everything, and so he started this cult and whatnot, and was, like, making sacrifices to the god, and, like, you know, he's the god of hunger, so, like, he forces his cult to starve, basically, but he's just crazy. Like, this is total bollocks. He is just insane. And deep down, he knows it. And he's going into, like, greater and greater acts of zealotry and signs of devotion, because if he does this hard enough, he's going to start believing it. And there's a very interesting tragic character there, but kind of like the religious abuse angle and the, like, forcing people to starve themselves in the name of their god and everything. That just was not horror themes that were fun for me. But if you want to have that basic torment and that basic conflict within the character, then having him be a bit more Kylo Ren, where instead of it being like a religious thing, it's more like a legacy that he knows he's not worthy of, or even that he's not part of, and that he's trying to prove that he's supposed to be the head of this cult, but, like, he's not actually chosen by the, you know, the predecessor. He does not have, like, the spiritual, like, stuff laid down on him. He's just a loser. You could have it be a little more Kylo Ren, and that might be a little less if you don't like religious abuse themes. That could go down a little smoother. The other thing, which is, you know, this is actually for looking up old Ravenloft stuff and bringing it into a Stellar Archipelago game, is there is a mod in 3rd edition. It's in a supplement called Dark Tales and Disturbing Legends, called The Curse of Ashington Manor. I've run it twice.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It's pretty great. Heads up, it's White Wolf in the early 2000s.
Very edgy.
Very edgy. Lots of scantily clad ladies. Lots of things happening to scantily clad ladies. Yeah.
Sure, this isn't for kids. This isn't for kids, Jack.
Oh my gosh.
This is for grown-ups.
Treatment of women in that one is real annoying, but the thing that isn't annoying, that is super cool, and that you could bring over if you had, like, a, you know, you're about to kill Sidious and everything is falling apart and all of the regions of the archipelago are, like, shifting into one another and blending together and stuff. It had this whole mechanic where there was a map of the manor house, and there would be, in certain, like, doorways or, you know, sections of the hallway or whatever, there would be a square of the map that was a black square. And anytime the PCs passed a black square, you would draw a Taroka card, and the suit of the Taroka card would say what timeline they shifted into. Yeah. So you could have a thing where they're, like, diddy-bopping around on Tatooine in Mos Eisley Cantina, dealing with the wretched hive of scum and villainy trying to escape the Empire, and then they step out of the cantina and suddenly they're on Jakku.
Yeah.
And then they step back inside, and now suddenly it's not Empire Tatooine, and now suddenly they're talking to Watto and getting ready for a pod race.
The adventure, the core idea is the titular Ashington Manor was cursed to have this repeating tragedy.
Yeah.
And when the PCs visit it, they kind of get pulled into the latest cycle. But then, because it's the repeating tragedy, because of the curse, they're kind of moving through different cycles, like different iterations of this tragedy, trying to stop it from happening in sort of the quote-unquote present. So let the record show this sort of weird, multi-layered timeline, timey-wimey, is in older Ravenloft canon.
Absolutely.
We are not bringing in something completely foreign to Ravenloft canon.
No, we are not.
We are just taking that core concept of Curse of Ashington Manor.
And actually, when we were trying to crack this, we were coming back to Curse of Ashington Manor. So,
and it's really helpful for us. We kind of mentioned this with the sequel trilogy, but it's honestly true of a lot of Star Wars, is because it's just kind of trying to iterate the original trilogy in a lot of times. It does even have that whole, it's sort of just like this cycle of, like, events happening again and again and again. And so this is taking that and using that to then do this kind of more timey-wimey story.
Yeah.
So the final thing we like to talk about in the parting thought section is the strengths and challenges of running a game in this setting. And now, general Star Wars strengths and challenges we did in our original, many, many months ago, May the 4th, launch of this series. But now we're looking back as we finished up the series. And so this is specifically strengths and challenges of this one. The unknown regions, the uncharted regions, the sequel trilogy domain. So strengths, as we mentioned, if it's kids, you might have a strong connection. They don't really care about this. They might be emotionally invested in these characters in this setting. And we've mentioned a bunch of these already, but this really is a kind of perfect combination of, you have all these like signifiers of classic Star Wars. You have stormtroopers, you have TIE fighters, you have red-bladed lightsaber bad guys trying to kill Jedi. And you also have, however, so much creative freedom for your PCs to define how this setting goes. Like your PCs can control how this setting develops in a way they can't in any of these others we've looked at.
Yeah.
And also, we do have that wonderful, you get all that classic Empire Rebel stuff, but then potentially a really interesting kind of Cold War political setup for different types of stories that, once again, I think would be really fruitful for your PCs to generate stories. And finally, Kylo Ren is just such a great NPC. He's such a great villain because he is so like unconventional as a sort of boss villain. He's not like, I am the biggest, baddest, scariest guy in the whole universe. He's like, I am a pathetic little jerk, but I can kill you with my brain. So that, I think, could be a lot of fun to like have your PCs deal with that. Of like, wow, this guy sucks so much, but he can kill us with his brain.
Once again, death.
But what about some of the challenges of a sequel trilogy domain? One's right there in the name.
There are few things in this world more radioactive than the sequel trilogy. It's like, number one, the elephant's foot in Chernobyl. Number two, The Last Jedi. Like,
yes. Seriously, go to any kind of like media thing, like YouTube or podcast or whatever, or post, and if they talk about The Last Jedi, see how many comments there are. It's like easily there are going to be 100 more comments than usual, because a decade later, the internet is still insanely hung up on that movie.
We will be deleting many comments in this episode. I have foreseen it.
I don't think had to do that before, but I predict you are correct.
So yeah, just know how your group is going to react. Like, if you don't like the sequel trilogy, that's fine. Like, I get there are valid reasons. Yes, thank you for staying with us. There are valid reasons not to like the sequel trilogy, especially Rise of Skywalker. If you don't like it, that's totally fine. If there is going to be someone at your table who dislikes it so much that they're going to ruin this entire arc for your entire group, you need to know that going in.
Yeah,
you need to know that's going to be a thing.
You're like, I'm going to say, hey guys, this is a thing based on the sequel trilogy, and then they're going to rant about The Last Jedi for 3 hours.
That's going to be the entire game.
That's the entire game as I'm talking about The Last Jedi. Yeah. And then sending everybody links to 6-hour YouTube videos dissecting frame by frame The Last Jedi.
There's something very cool and interesting in the First Order as being these, like, Imperium cosplayers who are pathetic but also deeply dangerous. But if you don't play them just right, then they can come across like you ordered the Empire on Temu. Yeah. And, like, there are points of the sequel trilogy where it feels like you ordered the Empire on Temu. So, like, if you want to be doing stuff with the First Order Ascendant, pretty much any story you'd want to do, there's going to be better in the original trilogy. Like, it's really got to be at this before the war breaks out period where it's really interesting.
That's the one thing you don't have in the original trilogy.
And once the war breaks out, you're done. It's just like, well, but why are we here, though? Why are we fighting Kylo Ren? Even Kylo Ren doesn't think we should be fighting Kylo Ren when we could be fighting Darth Vader. So I think those are the main challenges, but I am going to... This is live, baby. I'm going off script. So, honey, this is your last chance to talk about Star Wars.
Okay, wow.
Is there anything you want to say?
Oh, gosh. I didn't even prepare anything.
I know,
Don't prepare a speech. Okay.
I just realized that, this is it. Like,
yeah, Star Wars is great. I love it very much. It is a wonderful setting to play in. It is, thank you for sticking with us through this deeply self-indulgent project that no one needed or necessarily wanted. A
lot of people wanted it.
Ravenloft.
Going by our comments and our Discord, a lot of people wanted this, and we're excited when they heard what we were doing.
I hope that we have done that satisfactory. Then I hope we have satisfactory given you something uniquely Ravenloft enough to be worth your time instead of just playing a Star Wars RPG, like the ones I'm looking at on our bookshelf right now.
Yes.
And if you have not seen Star Wars Rebels, watch it. It's really good. I think Andor's the best show in Star Wars. Rebels is the best Star Wars show. I know there is a hesitation to the animated series. There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I know that, you know, it can feel kind of begrudging to be like, this is annoying that I have to watch these cartoons that I'm not really interested in. But hopefully you watched Maul, because everyone's talking about how great Maul is, and it's like 8 episodes.
Please watch Maul.
Please watch Maul. If not, you don't need anything. You don't need anything. They'll give you everything you need. Just Maul's so good.
It's so good.
And
I
then
cannot wait for season 2.
You liked Maul, give Rebels a try. Season 1's a little shaky, but about halfway through season 1 it starts picking up, and I think it is one of the greatest pieces of Star Wars media there's been.
Also, if you're one of the people who stopped watching the live action shows after Book of Boba Fett or after season 3 of Mando was...
Which is fair.
Which is fair. I highly recommend giving Skeleton Crew a watch.
Yes.
It's really fun.
Unappreciated,
you don't need anything. It is completely its own thing.
Completely its own thing.
You don't need to watch you don't have to watch a single other Star Wars
Yeah.
to get Skeleton Crew. It's just the Goonies in space, and it's
cool.
great.
Yeah.
And Jude Law's a pirate.
Great recommendation. So, if you want to ask about my defense of the sequel trilogy, of Force Awakens, of kind of my lukewarm defense of Rise of Skywalker, if you want to share any other plot ideas you might have, or alternative universe things, or timey-wimey inspirations, how could they get in touch with us?
Well, you can email us at wonderfulworldofdarklords@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Tumblr, or Patreon at Wonderful World of Dark Lords. On YouTube, we're just Wonderful World of Dark Lord. And actually, I'm going to say one other thing that I would love for you guys to contact us with, which is we were saying we could easily let Star Wars take over the podcast for an entire year if we wanted to. And we didn't. But we would love to hear about some of the Star Wars Dark Lords that you guys would do.
Yes.
Like, we only had room on the roster for 4, and we had
some thoughts.
We had some thoughts. We had to kind of go not only with, like, the ones that we thought would be the best Dark Lords, but kind of, like, covering the iconic greatest hits from the movie period and everything.
And we had that conceit of they were all corrupted by Palpatine.
So there were a lot of Star Wars Dark Lords we couldn't do. We would love to hear about you guys' Star Wars Dark Lords idea. Lay it on us, please.
So reach out to us about any and all of those topics, but not, I repeat, about Star Wars The Last Jedi.
No, unless you want to just talk about how great it is. We're here
Yes.
for that.
So, if you like how we did the incredibly complicated task of adapting Star Wars for this Ravenloft setting, especially our sort of final, as I mentioned, triple Lutz spin and the ice rink of trying to do our timey-wimey Palpatine Dark Lord, all the timelines exist simultaneously, Star Wars setting, then you may like how I've adapted some horror movies and other movies into D&D adventures. If you just follow the link to the show notes to More by This Author and DM's Guild, if you search for Tom Kohler on DM's Guild, you'll find them. And also, if you like our thoughts about how this sequel trilogy might be very meaningful to younger viewers, younger players, then we also do have some guides for running more spooky or horror-themed stuff for younger players, which are also there on DM's Guild.
And then speaking of spooky things for young people, I have a picture book, Mother Ghost, Nursery Rhymes for Little Monsters. It's exactly what it sounds like, 13 classic nursery rhymes written to be about Halloween. And I also have several short stories for adults on my website, www.rachelkohler.com. I also just realized we need to do an announcement about our next episode.
Oh, indeed, yes.
Because we're doing something a little unusual for our next episode.
Season of craziness
It
here
is.
at Wonderful World of Dark Lord.
Because next episode is episode 50. Oh, guys. Oh, my gosh.
50 episodes. Good
Thank
Lord.
you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you guys so much. This has been such a fun project. This has been
50 episodes.
Yeah, we have loved
What a
doing
thing we've
this so much. We love doing this, and we cannot believe how many of you guys love it. And it's just thank you for coming with us on this journey through the mists.
Also, technically our Darth Vader was our season 5 kickoff.
Yeah.
But since we were kind of mid-series, we sort of tabled that. So this is kind of our official, unofficial season 5 launch as well.
So it's going to be something a little weird.
Something a little strange and a medium we have never covered before.
Yes, indeed. This is Future Rachel. When we started outlining next month's episode, we realized that we were in way over our heads because we are filthy casuals. So we are going to be bringing in a guest co-host once again next month to be the Virgil to our wide-eyed innocent Dantes in this strange new world that we are entering. So we will be joined by a friend of the show and all-around fabulous person, Robin LaGrava. Yes, this is the same Robin that I told not to add us about Hondo in our Don Carnage episode. It's going to be a fabulous time. I'm looking forward to it.
Until then, until our episode 50.
Wow.
Until next time, thank you for listening. Happy gaming.
And may the Force be with you.
Always.
Parting thoughts. The borders of the unknown regions remained closed for several days after I abandoned the Archangel. I remained on the ship that I had boarded for some time, staying in a cabin that was far too small for the price I paid and trying to watch the onboard entertainment around a giant pillar. However, the First Order never came upon us, and eventually the borders opened to let us pass. This was further evidence. Palpatine, or Sidious, may have been able to tell Kylo Ren to close the borders, but with only a single group of armed extremists on his side, he had neither the magic nor the manpower to find me, and eventually was forced to give up. I cannot begin to speculate as to whether Palpatine or Sidious are alive or dead, nor how a fiend might become undead. I have presented what information I have gathered about the erstwhile Emperor, and I leave the interpretation of it to one with a much larger library. It is disheartening, however, to imagine that someone might finally have rid the world of Palpatine only for him, somehow, to return. When I first arrived at the unknown regions, I had such a strong sense of hope. Seeing that there was a safe haven for those who had been harmed by the Imperium, that the Emperor was dead, that the Republic had a chance to live up to its ideals, it gave me hope that darkness could be defeated, that the heart may be weak, and sometimes it may even give in, but that deep down, there's a light that never goes out. But now, I fear that this was nothing but naivete on my part. More and more, it seems that every light must fade, and every heart return to darkness. Regards, D.
You go through exhaustive lengths to ensure you need not refer to my person, in an obvious attempt to avoid addressing me as master. As amusing as this petty and meaningless act of defiance is, I grow tired of your indignant reactions and persistent lies, as if not even a speck of blood has ever tainted your hands. You expect me to believe that you cannot show the same amount of care in the rest of your correspondence. Then you are incapable of writing in a less aggressive manner. And I once thought of you as sagacious. When I offered this pack to you, little servant, you possessed multiple qualities I considered ideal for this project, one of which was your empathetic nature, and another your ability to form connections with others, despite perceived differences. You are sorely lacking in these traits as of late, and your wrathful tendencies will lead you down a path from which you cannot turn back. On the topic of those with wrathful tendencies, Kylo Ren is an entirely pathetic creature, as is to be expected from someone who grants themselves the title of Supreme Leader. A beggar may name himself a king, but that does not change the truth of what they are. Kylo Ren will always be nothing. Sidious must be as impotent as you deemed him. He does not often leave insults unanswered, and his answer, more often than not, is a painful death. If he manages to establish a connection with Kylo Ren, I suspect Sidious will make short work of the little delusional idiot, and the New Republic will fall. The New Republic's lack of any true governance is a prime example of why a strong hand is a requirement for those who hold positions of authority. A confident and powerful leader can strike down a threat before it fully forms. A weak leader merely watches as the strength of their enemies grows and will, in the end, ultimately fail their people when it matters most.
Maul. Sidious tried to enlist me in one of his schemes. I sabotaged it instead. I didn't send your love, but I thought about it.
Well done. Be wary. Sidious has plans within plans. Let me know when you are safely out of the archipelago.
This has been The Wonderful World of Darklords. We have no affiliation with Disney or Wizards of the Coast. All music recordings used in this episode were obtained through museopen.org. The Requiem Aeternum and Agnus Dei from Felix Draesica's Requiem Mass are used under a Creative Commons Attribution license. All other recordings are in the public domain. Titles and links are in the show notes. Dialogue for Yensid was written by Aslan Rex himself, who you can follow on Tumblr at Darklord Aslan. The Wonderful World of Darklord's logo was designed by Halite Jones. You can find links to their work in the show notes. If you'd like to support the show, look for us on patreon.com or find our tip jar on Red Circle. Thanks for listening.
You will be.
I love you so
I love you so much.
Was that as fun as
That was so much fun, my goodness.